a podcast about amazing people from an incredible state. Amazing Arizonans with Mike Broomhead.
Another edition of Amazing Arizonans, and if you listen to me at all, you know how much I love football, and I love college football. We've got a true legend in Arizona sports with us, and Bill Shover, one of the founders, the idea man behind the Fiesta Bowl. Pretty incredible. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mike. Nice to be here.
Let's talk about this concept. What was it that made you want to have this bowl game here in Arizona? What was the idea behind it?
Well, I think I felt we were mistreated by the Nationals. They didn't have anything in the West except the Rose Bowl and maybe the Sun Bowl, but everything else was there. And Mississippi was getting in games at 5-5 or 5-4, and we couldn't get in with an 8 or 9-0 team. So it was just unfair, the whole bowl. But they didn't think we'd have the audience for it. So until ASU got in that first game in the Peach Bowl, and she took so many people down to Atlanta, and then they said, my God, that's a town. Yeah, we had 400,000 people in the town at that time. So we just felt it was unfair, and we wanted to expose ASU and U of A to the big time.
Did you imagine when you had the concept that it would grow into what it's grown into? Yes,
I thought it'd be even faster.
Really?
Yeah, I wanted to compete right with the Rose Bowl to begin with. That's how I dream. But my idea was, if they're that good in Pasadena, why would we be this good in Phoenix? Because we just knew we had a market here that was going so fast. People didn't realize what was happening in Arizona. And the sports thing was just really going fast. But they say, you're from where? Arizona? And the WAC conference? What the hell? Who are they guys?
Yeah.
So you just got tired of being put down by everybody. And ASU would play a Big Ten team or U of A would play a big team, and they'd beat them. And they'd be surprised. But they had good records. But no one knew who they were until we got the bowl started.
But I think that's why when I've asked, and I've done my homework, I've asked people about you, they use the word visionary because I would not have imagined back then that the bowl game would be as successful and grow into what it has. It is one of the mainstay staples, big name bowls mentioned with the biggest bowls in the country. And I think that's fantastic for Arizona.
Well, first, I'm not a visionary. I went to boys' Catholic school and I got beat up by the nuns all the time. but basically,
we have that in common, I will tell you.
I got the scars too. Anyway, we just knew that this market was going so fast and it deserved the attention. Well, we weren't on the sports page until we got the Suns, so we were just out in the middle of the desert, it seemed like. But we knew that our teams were as good as the other teams because when they played them, ASU and U of A would beat those teams. And no one would say, well, it's just a blip. They're not that good. So it was a kind of a challenge of being proud of this community to say, we are as good as the others too, so let us have our bowl game.
And the time of year when the bowl games happen, the climate here is so perfect. Our weather is the envy of the entire country, which is one of the things the game shows off now is the time of year when the bowl game is played, the weather's perfect. And when they have the shot from South Mountain or somewhere else, it really shows off how great this valley is.
Yeah, they always talk about Pasadena and the mountains around there. Our weather was better than Pasadena, frankly. But you think about Florida, you can't put the irrigation problems in Florida. But we knew we had something here that people didn't know. And me, with a newspaper guy, I was trying to build circulation, move out here. And that was one of my motives for people to move here.
So that's an interesting segue, is that your background in the newspaper industry, and that was your goal, was circulation and drive people here.
Well, I came from Indianapolis, and back there we also had a lot of pride. And the papers put on an Indiana All-Star game against Kentucky every year, gave the money to the blind. We just wanted to have recognition for our sports. And when I came here, there was nothing, no recognition in the sports at all until we finally got Jerry to come to town, and things began to change.
When you look at to shift gears for just a moment, I'd love your perspective. I've only been in this industry, the radio industry, for less than 20 years full time, and I've seen dramatic changes in how we do things in the digital world and podcasting, and the changes in the media from newspapers to where we are now and how people consume news. What's your opinion on that? What do you think?
Well, I remember the days of flatbread presses, as you can imagine, and then they got the rotaries and all that. But we didn't. We were the last to adapt to the changes because we were saying we'll always have a newspaper and the hot type will always be important. And we were slow to doing it, so it passed us for a while. But the changes are just, it's unbelievable what you're having now. And I'm not even up to it. I give up my computer because I don't like to fight it all the time and getting bad messages on there all the time. So I live in a cave. I'll tell you that I'm the only one in my group that says, I don't need the damn computer, but I do need it.
When you look at the way news is consumed now with the immediacy, the example I give people is I grew up in Southwest Florida, and I was there when the Challenger exploded, when the Challenger disaster happened, and I actually saw it in the distance happen. But it wasn't until the afternoon where they printed a special, extra for our newspaper that you could read about it, or you'd wait till the next day. Now it's almost in real time that people are able to consume that. Do you think that's good?
Well, as long as they have the printed record, because you need it for a historical reason. I know you can have tapes and other things like that, but there's believability about something you read in the print, and we can just hold on to that as long as we can, I suppose.
What do you think of journalists today, the young people coming up in the industry? What advice do people ask you for advice? Because, my producer, Julia, who you met, is a graduate of Cronkite School, and we have some brilliant young people in this building that are journalism majors. What do you say to young people that are entering that field?
I say be like Walter. In fact, I was the guy who invited Walter to come out here to do it he thought he was coming to the U of A, and I told him to say ASU instead. But anyway, Walter was a print guy. He was a correspondent of the war, and he always respected journalism being printed. And I said, well, Walter, what about your friend Barbara Walters? He said he wanted to talk about her. He said, I want to talk about journalists. And so, but he never said that publicly to anybody else, I'll tell you that. But it's a different world now because it's so much print is gone. It's put it off to the side, but people still rely on what they can read and put in their library, I guess you can say.
It's interesting you say that because when we work together on building the radio show each morning, we pull it from the computer, but I print it out. I still want to see it in front of me on paper, and I think you're right. People still like to be able to read it. I know that people that are book readers, you can get them on the computer, but many people still love to buy the book. That's interesting.
One time, Mr. Pulliam was our publisher at the time. They said something bad about it in the newspaper. He said, let's cut them off. Don't deliver papers to their offices. And the morning cabin, they were panicking. They had to go to Circle K to get the paper because that's what they read for the news in the morning. So people believe in print, but they don't like it. They like the accessibility of broadcasts.
So back to the Fiesta Bowl. Was there a point when it turned a corner for you when you knew this is going to be immensely successful? When was the moment you knew that you had something?
The reason I knew it is when they told us we had the game. When I got a call in the suite after making our presentation to the Extra Events Committee of the NCAA, Stan Bates was then the head of the commission. He was the athletic director at Washington State University. And he said, Bill, I have news for you. We're going to prove your game, but we're not going to give in to the heat you put on us. But we're going to announce it not here for the May, but we'll announce it in May for the game in December. So you got your game. Then I knew, my God, it's up. We're going to be on the world now. We're going to see what our teams can do, what we can do. And the guys in the group, or just 9 of us, the founders, said we're going to break our fannies to make sure it's the most important game to the teams coming in. And we found out that Pasadena and other places met them at the plane, met at the game, and they go down the plane. They had no contact with this team except for the Sun Bowl. They ever personal, but we killed people with popularity and hospitality, I guess you could say. We didn't have much money, but everybody came out here and said, we'd rather go back there than go to the Rose Bowl for the players, because they take care of our kids, they take care of our wives, they do things that no one has ever done in the bowl biz. So we didn't have the money, but we sure had the hospitality, and people like you were volunteers, and they still do it.
Do you have a favorite memory or some of your favorite games? There's been so many, but what were some of the memories of the games that you will never forget?
I'll tell you what's off of the game. But each year after we're having the team who won our game, we'd go back to that city to open their season the next year. And Michigan won the game. They beat Nebraska in the bowl, so we'd always put up a tent outside and we'd invite in the beautiful people of the school. So we had it at the opening game for Michigan that year, and we brought in the leadership of the University of Michigan, and we also brought in all the bowl guys there, and all the bowls were there for the Michigan game. And off the field came, what's his name, the coach now of Michigan.
The one that just left, or the one that
no, the traditional coach, Bo Schembecker.
Yeah,
Bo Schembecker. He comes walking in. We had a stage to greet people and thank him. I was doing the hosting that day, and he walks in. He says, "Shover, could I take the stage?" And I knew him because after the game was over against Nebraska, I was in putting up things we put on the wall about congratulations your team, and we gave him things. And he said, "Get on the box here, and you're going to lead us in singing the Victor's Valiant." And so we developed a friendship. So he comes and he says, "Shover, I want to say something to the group." And he said, and I'll never forget, he said, "You guys in the bowls here, I want to tell you something. You have great bowls, but you guys, particularly you guys in the Rose Bowl," they were sitting right there, "you ought to see how they do it in Phoenix. They really take care of you. They make you feel like you're wanted there." And they're all going like this. And I was never so unpopular with the bowl people in my life.
They followed your lead, right? I mean,
after that, they
changed.
They meet them at the plane, but then they would also set up, they have doctors available to them, have people to take them, kids on babysitters to do the things that we couldn't afford, but we got volunteers to do those things. But that offset the money we couldn't put it in the school's pocket. So we were the hospitality bowl, and we still are. That's a nice thing about it. We give them money now, but they're marveled by how much our people want to help them when they get in town.
Well, and the escort. I mean, even the escorting the buses to the stadium. I mean, you treat them like royalty, like they are the most important people in town. That's got to make them feel good.
Well, you've been part of it, so you know something about it. They put your arm around you when you go in. So
right.
I don't look at you as just I'm a visitor. You're a friend now. And when they come back the next time, you know their name and they know your name. So it's a thing that's built up because the players don't care how much the school's going to need. They want to have hospitality when they come. So
and it's a memory. It's something they'll never forget.
And you ask the players who've been here all these years, they'll say, "I love the Fiesta Bowl."
You know, it's tough for me because I am a big fan of the Miami Hurricanes. Mm-hmm. And we have not fared very well in the Fiesta Bowl.
I remember the game. I remember the particular game against Penn State, yeah.
Penn State, that game, and then the game against Ohio State, I think it was at 03.
Overtime, yeah.
That was a tough loss. But, I hope they come back. I would love to see my boys in the Fiesta Bowl and what it's become. And now that it's out in Glendale, to see that stadium filled with that many people, the atmosphere, the energy is just, you can't duplicate it.
Well, we love the Hurricane players, but they came in, dressed like Rambo.
Oh, I know. I remember.
And they did their best to make themselves enemies. And, of course, the Penn State guys were on striped ties and shirts, and all this stuff. They were just a contrast. So we didn't build that hatred up. The two teams did because they didn't like each other in the game.
And this is not a good memory for me, but didn't the Hurricane players walk out of the breakfast?
Yeah. Yeah, we have a joint breakfast for them, and they walked out because they put on a little skit. We had each school put on a skit, fun thing, and they did a picture of Jimmy Johnson with his hair, and they had a guy with his hair on. And he walked up on the stage, and they said, "That's our coach," and so they walked out of the place. We were insulting their coach, and that we had no control over that, but it happened.
Yeah, but it was with the contrast. Even then, the reputation that we had and reputation Penn State had in Paterno, and he was such a great coach, and that team had time to prepare. And as good as Vinny Testaverde was in that game as a quarterback, that game, I think he threw 5 interceptions in that game. And
all-time record.
Yeah.
All-time record. And then one of the great quarterbacks of all time is Vinny Testaverde. But Joe put up an extra linebacker, and he just outcoached Jimmy in that game.
Well, yeah. Well, anytime you give Joe Paterno a couple of weeks to prepare for anyone, they were going to be in trouble because he was a legendary coach. And so, again, my memories of the Fiesta Bowl are always good ones, but my team has not fared very well in that game, and I would love for them to have a chance to redeem themselves.
Well, they'd be invited back because they've changed a lot, too. But it's a wonderful school, and we had a former president of the school here, and she greeted the team. I remember that at the time. So nothing against Miami at all. A wonderful place.
When you look at what the Valley has become and the size it's grown to, you talked about it being a town of 400,000 at one time. Did you ever imagine that you would see the immense growth in the Valley and the popularity of Arizona? Because we have grown so big. So I've been here for 30 years, and I'm blown away at the growth. You must be amazed.
Well, it all happened after World War II. You've heard the story that the servicemen came out here for the air bases and all that. And they said, well, why go back to Indiana or anywhere else where they're from? I can come out here and bring my family out here. So the growth was phenomenal. In fact, it's record-breaking, you know. But I had a vision that we were going to be big because we had no boundaries. We could just expand anywhere. San Diego, other places have oceans that restrict their boundaries. But we just had so much to offer here. And when the Suns came, we made them like emissary. They were like our Jackie Gleason in Miami because they were showing what it was like to live here. And people were seeing the NBA when it comes to a little place like Phoenix, Arizona. So it was all good.
Was it difficult to get the business community to buy into the support for the Fiesta Bowl? Or did they believe, like you believed, that this was going to be something great for all of us?
I would say 90%. We got the big guys off the Phoenix 40 we had in those days, and they supported the game, and so the other people followed, but we had great participation. But the volunteer thing is that no one else had ever seen before. Asking people to come down and give their life for 2 weeks like you've done, and not even give them a thing, maybe a sticker or something like that, but they just want to be a part of the team. There was pride. I came from Iowa, but this is my town. I want to show off the town that I live in now. So there was that community proud that we built up. It wasn't like being in Miami where you had the Orange Bowl. They were from the Orange Bowl.
Right.
And we were from somewhere else, and we just played on that. We didn't even have to mention it. People did it.
When you look at and one of the things I love about what the Fiesta Bowl community, what the organization does, is the charitable work and the scholarship program for teachers, this Teacher Wish program. It is so great to see an organization that has a reputation for being a great football game, not just focus on the football game, but to use that notoriety to make the community a better place.
And the Fiesta Bowl has more than paid its dues to the community. They've been the one that you point to of all the bowls for giving back. The other bowls may give checks, but the Fiesta Bowl gets involved with things too. People get their volunteers into things, and so it's a special thing that we thought. In fact, the volunteering is really what got our game to begin with. We said we were going to be a thing about drug abuse, and we told the NCAA, and they said no one does that, and they gave us the game because the White House said it's a great idea to get behind this game because they're going to do something nationally for drug abuse. So we were told we were volunteers and let's extend volunteerism and give money away. Why you sock it away? Put it out in the community.
One thing I haven't really talked much about, and I'd love your opinion about it, is the parade. Mm-hmm. Because that, again, is another event and a community event that people love to come out and see, but people want to participate in that as well. They want to have a float in the parade. They want to be in the parade. Schools that are able to be in it. It is something of an accomplishment to be in it. So how did that come about, and do you love the parade as much as you love the game?
Oh, yeah. The parade was the free thing we gave back to the community for support. We weren't like Pasadena. Pasadena's parade is a beautiful parade, but it's not a family thing. It's a society of all the people going up to the chairs through the year. But it's the parade of all. We'll never be like them because we don't have even the boulevards like they have and everything. But it was our give back for poor people who just couldn't do anything else, couldn't go afford the game, but they could sit on the curb with their kids and watch bands play and that sort of thing. So that was our gift back to them to make it as good as we can and get celebrities to come in the parade to be marshals and things like that. So it's a crowd pleaser, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I think it's an event everyone looks forward to. Where I grew up in Southwest Florida, Thomas Edison has a home there, and we have the largest nighttime parade. It's called the Edison Festival of Lights Parade.
I've seen it.
And so that parade for us is a community event that the community gets behind and is proud of. But it's the same thing here with that Fiesta Bowl parade, that it is an event all by itself.
Yeah.
It's an amazing event.
Well, your committee of volunteers is splits. Some of them worked in the parade, some of them work in the game, and they can rival each other which one gets the most attention. And of course, the game will get more attention nationally. But they work to get the crowd to come down and watch that parade, because it's not a parade for bands from all over the world like in other parades have. Your local bands are in the parade. It's a community parade that you can enjoy and see the kids that you know are holding the baton. So it's a different kind of parade, I guess you could say.
And the significance of the bowl game, and to show how well respected and big the game has gotten, is that being in the playoff rotation with the other schools and hosting the first quarterfinal game with this new playoff system, that's also, I think, it shows the significance of the game you've built.
Well, I think we've cultivated NCAA people a lot. When we get to games, we always made sure we talked to the athletic director and the president of the university and go beyond just the coach. So we try to stretch out and say, we're here for your school, not just your football team. And so people respect us. We go in there sometimes on the Friday before the game and spend time to get to know the locals. And we'd put on events for them to even have when they come to Phoenix. So it's a different feeling that some games are just, we're there for the game and we'll send you home.
Well, it's interesting because they are celebrities for the week that they're here. The coaching staff is so sought after. I know there's events for the fans and that travel, but for here in the community, we look at them, at least I do, when the teams come into town, I want to know where they're practicing. We want to know where they are. If you run into them, you see some of their players or their coaches anywhere around town. They are celebrities for that week they're here. And I think that's got to be something that makes them feel good that their accomplishments on the field are recognized nationally outside of their hometowns, that we see them for their accomplishments.
We didn't have to tell the coaches to do that with their players. The players loved that the fans are good to them. But some coaches want to keep their players secluded until the game happens. We want them to get them out in the community. So we just want them to be recognized for not as athletes, but as people coming from the universities. And they can say, my brother went to that school years ago, or my dad or something. There's a relationship you develop beyond football, I guess you could say.
So let's talk about legacy for a moment. What do you want the Fiesta Bowl to grow into? Do you think they've accomplished everything you want them to? What would you like to see happen next? What do you want people to think about or remember about the Fiesta Bowl?
I want to remember the hospitality and that we had good games. And Pasadena has the beautiful location and everything. It's a perfect place for a bowl game. We don't have that kind of thing. We're a city. They're a community. But I want people to say, I enjoyed when I went out there and that they took good care of me and I was safe. And if you're in the community of the teams, I needed a dentist in the middle of the night or I needed a guy to walk my dog, we'll find a place to do that for you too. The other bowls don't do that. But I wanted us to be a bowl that they could say, I got beat in the game, but I sure had a heck of a good time out there. The people treated me so nice. So I think the people who have participated here will want to go back. We've had many people. We got games that we shouldn't have taken away from the Cotton Bowl, but they didn't get the hospitality. And we had less payoffs than they did, like these bowls I mentioned. But the teams say, I'd like to go out to Phoenix because they're going to show me around the town, and I may want to live there someday. It's a nice place to live. We're just capitalizing with the benefits we had.
I don't think that most people realize the work that happens all year round to make an event like this possible. But for it to grow to what it's become with the reputation that it has nationally, again, I grew up in the Southeast, and the Fiesta Bowl was still, when Miami was invited to the Fiesta Bowl, that was a significant accomplishment. That as good as that team was, this was an accomplishment to come to a game like this. So the reputation you've built and the hard work over the years is commendable. I really appreciate you coming in and doing this, but I think the community owes you a debt of gratitude because it wasn't just you had an idea. The years of work you put in building this is quite a dedication to your community.
Well, the best thing we've had are the volunteers. We asked people to give us a hand, and they came in droves. And we didn't expect that. All we knew that they were from somewhere else. They wanted to show off that they could do things like they did back in their hometown. And we created an army, and we had to be selected. In some cases, there's so many people around. But no bowls had the volunteer support like we've had. And the people like me who really got it going, we just stood by and watched them and thanked them. Because they're the ones who made it go. It wasn't the founders, I'll tell you that.
But I think you're being too humble, because if it hadn't been you being the person that you are, I don't think you would have gotten the support that you had gotten. There are a lot of people that have good ideas, but people don't rally around them like they do around your idea, because I think it's because, and what I hear from people, it's because of who you are, and I think that's commendable.
Well, that's enough.
So we should stop talking about it. I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate you coming down, and I love Arizona and the history of Arizona, and I don't think we could talk about Arizona and not have this be a significant piece of Arizona's history. And it is such an event of the things that we have that are ours. This is one that stands out in everybody's mind, right. Is ours.
You refer to one of the games. We had the most memorable game of all time in bowl history, I think, probably between Miami and Penn State, because it was a national thing.
Yeah.
People took sides. Either you're a Rambo or you're not.
Yeah.
And so it was beyond sports, I can say that. Bob Hope emceed the event, and he said, I've known Joe Paterno a long time. He says, but he's so damn good. He said, I'd like to see him lose sometime, but I'd like to see Miami win. I remember people booed at the bank when he said that. But we were delighted to have those kids come in, and they were just young kids.
Yeah.
They were not people showing off. They were just what kids do at their age. It was, and Joe Paterno, who, bless him, he's the guy who really gave us the start. He was in our early game, as you know, and beat ASU. But we were lucky to have the coaches become like our emissaries, like Bo Schembechler. We were lucky to have people who liked what we did, and they overpraised us, if I could say that.
Well, a lot of those players, there's two different things. There are players that went on to great NFL careers that still hold their memories of the Fiesta Bowl as highlights. Mm-hmm. And there are some players who after college never played another down of football, and their greatest memory was on that field at the Fiesta Bowl. So you've given some great memories to a lot of people.
Well, they give the memories to us too. So it worked out both ways. We were so lucky to have this city waiting for something like this, and with ASU in a rise at that time and being in our first games and winning, we were off to a great start. We were just so lucky to fall in it that way.
Do you like that the game is in Glendale, or did you like it better when it was at Sun Devil Stadium?
I have no preference, but there's more seats in Glendale, and it's a beautiful place to have it. So, but I think away from the university was probably a good idea because it's in a neutral site, if nothing else. But Glendale does it and a wonderful job, and that's a beautiful place to hold a game, and the stadium is just perfect for what we need.
I went last year. I was at the last bowl game, and I have friends who went to Liberty, and they were so honored that they felt like this was finally the national stage for them. And that really gave me the significance for a university that you really become this is a feather in your cap that says we have finally gotten a national recognition to be invited to the Fiesta Bowl. They were just over the moon to be invited to that bowl.
Yeah, if you go to the Boise State and go on the blue field, you look in the end zone and it says Fiesta Bowl champions. It's the biggest thing that happened in that community.
That was such a great game.
Probably the greatest bowl game I think of all time when I think about it.
That was an incredible game, and I think the entire country was on the edge of their seat watching that school win that game when nobody thought they were going to.
And the things that happened afterwards, the guy winning the game married the cheerleader.
Yep. Yeah. Got engaged. Yeah.
It was a perfect. It was like a scripture. Like a movie, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the time today. I want to thank you for telling the stories, and I hope to see you at the game this year.
Mike, thank you very much. And most of the stories I said are true.
Well, we won't even talk about which ones weren't. We'll believe them all.
Thank you, Mike. My pleasure.
All right. Bill Shover is one of the founders of the Fiesta Bowl. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.